So is it common for depersonalization realization to fluctuate between intensities? That's the question. The answer is yes, absolutely. That was my experience, and that's definitely the experience for at least most of my clients. Now, there's a caveat to that. The caveat is, let's say that you're experiencing depersonalization realization and it's like a 1 out of 10 intensity. It's still going to be horrifying. It's still going to be extremely uncomfortable, okay? It's going to feel like death, whether it's a 1 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, okay? Any level of intensity of depersonalization realization feels like death. They're literally death symptoms. Your brain thinks that you're dying, and your brain is trying to dissociate or separate you from your body and the material world, so that way if you're being eaten by a lion, you don't feel it as much. But with that being said, let's use depersonalization for example. There were times whenever I was suffering where I literally felt like my soul or spirit was about to fully detach from my body. In fact, that was one of my most irrational fears that I had, in addition to the fear of permanence and the fear of going crazy, is I was like, at any moment, I'm going to fully slip out of my body, right? Depersonalization isn't an out-of-body experience, but you feel like you're on the verge of coming out of your body, right? Your hands, your arms feel like they're not yours. You look in the mirror, you feel like you're looking at a stranger. It's absolutely horrifying. But there were also moments where I just felt a little detached from the reflection in the mirror, and I would look at my hands and I would just feel a little detached from them. But even just a little bit of detachment was still horrifying. It just wasn't as horrifying as like that 10 out of 10, which would typically happen during a panic attack or just some extreme moment of stress. But let's take derealization. Let's say 10 out of 10, everything feels like a movie, time has slowed down, or it's going really fast, everything feels cold and colorless and distant. I always describe it as, it's like I was in a movie theater watching my life play out before me. And it was one of the most horrifying things that I've ever gone through. And I just didn't even feel like I was present. It was like I was an actor, right? And everybody around me were like actors too. It was just, it's hard to describe, but it was horrible. But then there were also, moments with derealization where I would look at a tree and, it just wouldn't feel real. Right? And I would have especially a lot of existential rumination about the nature of reality, because things just seemed a little off. So let's say that's like a 1 out of 10. But even that was still horrifying. But again, with depersonalization or derealization, any intensity is horrifying.